Alvin, I'm looking for a little different angle today because you talked to me and you said to me, "Hey, man, I want to talk a little bit about Israel."
Okay.
So I've been sitting and doing a lot of research. My own research, reading things, stuff,
As you should. Aaron
and
Rodgers.
and I don't want to come from a position where I think I know what I'm talking about. I want to come from a position of I'm trying to understand,
Okay.
right? So I think it was 1927. Israel became a sovereign state. That land was occupied by Palestinians,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
A lot of them were pushed to the coast, little area of the Gaza Strip, which has been in constant conflict ever since then. And then to me, it appears as though there's two elements that's going on. You have the element of people who are pissed because they lost their land, and then you have an element of people who are just anti-Semites.
Sure.
It,
Which is not a new thing. Like it's like people bring up anti-Semitism as like, oh, well, that is a reason to uh like you can just put that on everyone, right? Like that's just the only reason that this is a new thing, and blah blah. It's like no, like hatred and racism and bigotry, that sort of thing. That's always been the case for everything, but that's never been a reason for um what's going on here, even if it is in the hearts and minds of some of those combatants.
so you got Hamas, which is particularly sneaky from what I've been seeing, is that they intentionally hide behind non-anti-Semites, put their headquarters under things like hospitals, put their rocket launchers in places like civilian apartment complexes to antagonize Israel with rocket launchers and all the other things that go on, right? So an attack on a Hamas person more than likely is going to kill people who have no dog in the fight. They just live there.
Yeah, but the thing about that though, that I always find like dumb because that gets said a lot as far as like, oh, well, they're like like human shields, I guess is what they say.
But aren't
But
they? From what I can tell, that's true though. It's not. That's not just propaganda. Like that's a real technique that they use.
yeah, but it's technique in the sense that if you are like the civilian tactic only works if you're attacking a person's home country, right? Like you can't just get to a Hamas base because it's in Palestine, and there isn't much space for them to put a base because it's the densest city in the world, I think.
In the world, I understand that little area has what 2, 3 million people, crazy densely populated. And I didn't finish my research, but I would assume that population is the result of the liberation of Israel and taking that land and pushing people out of that land into that area.
Correct. So it's like they don't have like a coast, like a Long Beach or something where you can put like a military base, far away from civilians. It's like they're all up in there.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I looked at it. I was just like, yeah, I think let me see what position I'm gonna take in this conversation. My position is it's fucked,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
fucked from a point of I, I know it's not popular, and I'm trying to be very, very sensitive and careful because right now you're talking at a huge death toll of of people in Israel. There's only like what 15 million of them in the world. There's like 7 million in that strip. They've already killed over 3,000 people. If you proportioned it out, that's like killing 10 to 30,000 Americans in one terror attack. If you
Mhm.
took a look at it from a per capita standpoint, yeah, it's pretty fucked. And yeah, force is going to come back, but it seems as though like there's this is a multi-layered, multi-issued type of thing that I don't know if there is a right answer. I don't think there is an answer of Israel should immediately move towards peace because I'm telling you what, man, if y'all killed 4,000 people in Vegas, somebody's gonna die.
Well, I tell you what, it's there's a lot of pieces to this, and I appreciate you doing some research and looking into it. But to me, I think there is a right answer, and not to be glib about it, but it is peace. Cheers, bro. Also, this podcast is simul uh funded by Topo Chico
Yeah.
Hard Seltzer. This one's strawberry guava. So we aren't doing the White Claw today. We're doing the seltzer game.
I had to, in many ways, represent.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that.
I know you're down with the kingdom, but yeah, I rep my team, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, yep. So we'll get into some of that our Chiefs Raiders quarter season thoughts
Yeah.
and do that whole game. But just I was thinking about it the other day. After I told you I wanted to go off on the conflict, but I realized I don't necessarily feel compelled to put my voice out there in the sense that there are people who are more educated on the conflict, b uh far more engaging and able to speak on it in a way that's more intelligent.
Yeah.
So and C, like, able to really take a hit on, like, not that the 7 people watching I'm like worried about
I don't
offending
know,
or whatever.
but you know what? It's a thing that I think it's real, and I'll say this, right, and there is very much. God, this is definitely going to be like get me killed for this statement, but very much like the LGBT community and the Jewish community very much are two communities that you have to be very measured and careful in what you say because they will fuck you up, right? Like, and they won't just fuck you up online, they'll fuck you up in your personal life. Like, yeah, you lose deals, your job ain't the same no more, right? And so it's difficult for an inquisitive, questioning person like mine to have conversations in those subjects sometimes
Uh-huh.
without feeling like there may be backlash for being inquisitive
Right,
uh,
right.
or questioning what was considered conventional thought by those groups. Going, hey, I don't get that.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you get the bandwidth with those groups to have a civil discourse.
It's rough, and to a degree, I understand it because it's like, these are people that are typically attacked, so they might be on guard, which is fine. But yeah, there's certainly some zealotry in the sense that if you were to even buck the trend in an intelligent way, which is for the LGBTQ stuff rare, for, for the Israel stuff, not as rare. You can have some very intelligent questions made about that, but it's not to say it's like regardless, you can get attacked for it no matter where it is on that spectrum. All right, so what do you want? You want to start light, or do you want to continue on with the Israel stuff?
I don't know. What I'll say is this, and I'll shift from because, like you eloquently said, I do not have a lot of knowledge or have done or well versed in the history, and that history is not a short history, and it's not an easy history, and it's not one that you can wrap up
I
in
think it
two.
is.
What's that?
I think it is an easy history.
If you take it an easy route, you're gonna get fucked up.
I mean, if you say the wrong things and maybe not inject enough nuance,
Yeah.
sure. But I think, God, there's this thing that's happening in the world. I was telling someone about it, that we are obsessed with 50-50ism, which is no matter what is going on in any topic, no matter what political position, the belief is that the opposite side is always, is opposite but is equal. And I don't believe in that. I think there
No.
are rights and wrongs.
Yeah.
I think there and people think like, okay, well, right and wrong is like, that's subjective, like that's your opinion. I think there are ways to objectively measure out right and wrong.
Yeah. I mean, like, without doing research, the easy thing is to me when I look at it is like you took my motherfucking land because you said it was your right. I want my shit back. So take some of these missiles, take some of this hate, right? And then And then through the years, it just doesn't seem like we move forward. We've moved further into separatists. There seems to be an apartheid type of environment for Palestinians in that area.
Not seem to
Right?
be is.
And if I look at things like the United Nations says things like they should stop apartheid and annex some of these areas and some different things. So, and Israeli politics, just from like me trying to look at it, it is complicated as shit. It's just as complicated as American politics with the left
Oh
and
yeah.
the right and people
Oh
that are
yeah.
in the middle, and all of that. But yeah, like the simple thing is, man, like some people feel like you took their shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I'm just gonna put it in straight nigga shit, like you ran up, you took my block,
Uh-huh.
right? You made it your block. You put new signs up and said it's your block. You went to the city and got them to say it's your block, but I don't give a shit. I want my shit back.
And it's and you're being kind, I think, in a lot of ways, because you're like, it seems like an apartheid. It seems like there's theft. It's like, no,
Because
it's not steaming.
I don't feel comfortable in my knowledge at this moment to make definitive statements.
Okay. And
Right?
is
But
it
from what I can read from a few sources, not seeking out counter arguments, it's just kind of fucked up right now.
just got fucked up?
It's just kind of fucked up. I also saw this thing where they went and showed this new map with all these annexed areas and places that they wanted to put new settlements. Pissing people off.
Yeah.
Right.
It's clear. It's clear.
It's pretty clear. I think what will make this, what makes this conversation so fucking difficult, really, is because if it was just a conversation about land, right, and the land dispute, that's one conversation. That's an easy conversation to have. But as soon as you put in and oppress people with a religion,
yeah,
and then you have a holy document saying this is ours, you was just sitting on the block till we came back.
Uh-huh. Well, when you add in religion, you add an entire new dimension of nonsense as far as again, zealotry, dogma, and it's just like, what do you do now that you can't, because you can't logic your way out of that, because there's no logic involved with it. So how do you say to a person that you're wrong because you're clearly wrong, and then their response is, well, it says in this book that I'm right, therefore, like, now what? There's nothing to do there.
I don't know. Well, look, man, I got some. I have some really good Jewish friends that I was
hoping your boy was gonna be on.
Yeah, he wasn't able. I had some really good Jewish friends that I like to have some conversations with them, so I could have more of I'm looking at a non-religious land dispute kind of look at things, and really like to have somebody maybe introduce or help me understand the other or the full story. Funny thing is, I went to school with a kid who sent money to Hamas.
What?
Right? Yeah. When I was in junior high school, his dad was a doctor here, and they used to send money back to Hamas. And when I would talk to him, only thing that he would say to me, it wasn't really a religious thing. He was just like, they took my ancestral land. Mm-hmm. And that's the way that he felt about it. So anybody that was in support of them getting that land back, regardless of the rhetoric that came with it, they were supporting it. And I remember talking, I didn't know what the hell Hamas was or any of that. It's just funny it comes back to me because I remember he used to talk about it. I had no clue or understood or any of that stuff. But he always referred to it not as he talked poorly on the religion. He talked poorly on the fact that the land that his family had been in for generations was taken from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said about that too. Just in the sense of like, hey, if we think about how the Native Americans were treated here. And it's funny how like they were called the savages, but they were like they were protecting their land, like their area, their tribe. the propaganda around is incredible. And one thing that I learned this week that I thought was very interesting was how, and like you said earlier, there's wait like a conversation like this can get you fucked up in your life and your job or whatever. But that's in America. In Israel, there's far more freedom to talk about, the rights and wrongs of the situation. In fact, I saw this poll, like so one of the major news outlets there, I think it's called Haaretz, is I want to say they're I'm hesitant to call them the New York Times of Israel because there's a stigmatism with it here.
If you knew.
Yeah. Not to
Big
say
news.
that they don't have.
One of the
Well,
largest
it's like, you don't want to be like, oh, is this like a left liberal like outlet over there, which is like kind like they're certainly not right wing, but they're, you can't just be like I said, 50-50ism. Like you can't just be accurate, because if you're accurate and call out one side, then you have a bias versus just being truthful. But they're saying that 4 out of 5 Israelis blame Benjamin Netanyahu for this attack. And a lot of them really, especially the left wing of the Israel population, is like really sympathetic to the Palestinian plight. And like obviously they don't get called anti-Semitic for acknowledging some very real shit that's going on over there. But in America, if you don't 100% toe the line, and even if you bring up the fact that there's a apartheid situation going on there, you can very quickly get called an anti-Semite.
To inject Christianity into any of the conversations that we just had, I hate to say it, injects bias and a lack of understanding.
Sure.
Because like to say, hey, look, you ran up and took somebody's land, that ain't right. That ain't Christian.
I think it's good to add that I think we've clearly established ourselves as being sympathetic to one side. But I think it's also good to mention that I think both of us are very much so like feel for the victims of the attack in Israel, right?
I feel, and this is going to piss people off, I feel for the victims of the attack on both sides.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I was going through the counts, the body counts. I want to say it is several thousand on both sides. And both sides are reporting a high amount of civilian casualties, right?
Well, now, right.
That ain't right. That ain't right, no matter how you look at it.
I mean, that's now, but like just the attacks and then the response to that.
Retaliation, yeah.
But, and we won't even get into how many people died in Palestine the last 40 years from fucking, but I'm just saying, like, as a clear message of like, yeah, it's awful what happened to the Israelis last week, and that's no matter what's going on, that's, there's no, I don't think there's an excuse for that.
Yeah. I'm not gonna, and I don't want anybody to take away from it like I'm saying a Trump-like statement. There's good people on both sides. Like, yeah. No, I'm not saying that. I think there are bad actions on both sides, and I think both sides, if you take time to listen to them, will find a way to justify it. I think at the end of the day, there just needs to be a movement towards peace, a movement towards de-escalation, a movement of how can those two cultures cohabitate in that same area, where everyone feels like the apartheid structure is only going to lead to more violence, right? Like I don't want to blame anyone, but like if you have a structure that is set up that way, you're breeding discontent. Not only of that, is you had Hamas, true fucking nutbags. I'll say that out loud. Hamas, they're out there. They are about genocide of the Jewish people, right? They're not looking for a solution. They're just looking for them to die, right?
Wow.
Right. Those people are nutty, right? But you got to be careful not to do what we did in Iraq.
Right.
You come in looking for a particular element and you kill people that aren't involved with that, then you inherit new enemies. People who never had a problem with the original beef. Matter of fact, may even supported you, but you killed my wife.
Yeah.
Right? It's war is messy, and I think that's how I like to end it. This is starting to turn out to be a real war. And in real war, there are civilian casualties in real war. Sometimes it is calculated to kill civilians in order to stop aggression in a real war. And for everybody who wants to be judgmental, how judgmental were you when we dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Those were not military strategic targets.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Right? Those were targets that were designed to break the back of a nation. They killed so many fucking civilians that they were like, Jesus Christ, we don't want to keep playing with these people.
Um, yeah, and like to maximize it too. Like if you hear the stories about how the bombs were and the decisions to drop the bombs were talked about and developed, like they picked that area because they knew like the mountains would like bounce back the force. you know, um, Japan was already trying to surrender and we wouldn't let them. Like it's just horrific, man. So, but you're absolutely right about that. Like any Americans who's talking about, you know, oh the civilians and stuff, it's like yeah, we done that shit.
Yeah, at least they did what I thought we should have did in Iraq. I do commend Israel for doing that because that's what I always felt like we should have did in Iraq. We should have been dropping leaflets on them saying "Leave now or die," and then turned it into a parking lot.
Mm.
And that's exactly what they're doing now. They're dropping leaflets on them saying, "Hey, if y'all don't evacuate this area, you're gonna die along with the rest of them."
Which I always thought was weird because it's like, aren't the bad guys gonna get the leaflet? Like, what's the?
It's a humanitarian effort in a war. In a real war, you're trying to minimize it, right? So you're going to say, hey, look, guys, we're about to fuck this up. And we don't even care if they know we're about to fuck this up. We're about to unleash hell on this area. Hang around if you wish, but if you hang around, you are considered an enemy combatant. We're not stopping and checking IDs, right?
Yeah.
We see you, we smoke you. Once again,
Ugh.
all of that smoke brought to you by Woodford Reserve Double Oaks.
And we'll cut it there because damn, I feel like I could.
No,
Just going off on it.
yeah, it is. I mean, I just think I think that's to me, I think that's the fucked up thing about Western society is that we have forgot what war means. We have done so many conflicts, right? And we have forgot what war means. And war is not by definition, it's not peaceful, it's not humane. That is not the purpose. It is to break the will, to break the back of a group of people to make them bend a knee to you, old school motherfucking Age of the Dragons, type of shit, like bend a knee type shit. That's what we're looking for, right? And if you do not break the will of your enemy, you kill them, you kill more and more of their citizens until they do.